Good evening, everyone. Looks like folks are arriving. So, hope you guys are doing well. We'll get started here just as I get caught up and get everything arranged. Going to talk a lot about what's going on, who's rising, who's becoming a force. That's the whole point behind the thumbnail, and that is a couple of young guys that are really starting to make a crushing. We're going to talk about the injuries, and then we'll get into all the questions. So just hold back a little bit as we get rolling, and I will try to get those answered right off the bat. Tonight's beer. Salute to you. This is a Kolsch. This one in particular is from Fremont, but I just did a review of a new Belgium Kolsch over on the podcast channel. So check that out. If you haven't seen any of the craft stuff, it's really about craft beer and new stuff. And even if you know some of it, I'm sure there's some new things. So please check that out. Spread the love and the word. I would appreciate it. A lot of beer talk going to go on in the coming months. I have a lot of friends in that industry as well. So we'll be talking. Top of the list, Mecole Hardman showed in week 1 just what he can do with the ball in his hands on that jet motion reverse. Excuse me. And the acceleration was clearly the biggest thing. He had some good vision. He's got that punt return ability, and that kind of plays into that too. But I think what was the bigger takeaway from week 2 was that he can go get open. And I think back-to-back scoring games for him is a good sign that he is not only understanding his role and his route combinations, but his function as a part of the overall offense. That's a big sign. And honestly, it puts him a little bit ahead of pace of where he is or where I expected him to be. Excuse me. And that's a good sign because originally, we were in kind of a panic when that happened with Ty Hill and his selection, all on the same day. Very, very kind of heavy tension kind of thing. And originally it was going to be a replacement. So can he do these things? Can he do the jet motion? Can he do what he needs to do out in the field, running routes? That was going to be critical. And it still is. But the fact that he's ready in accomplishing that now, running with the ones, that's just a supplement to Ty Hill now. And that's really, really intriguing. This puts them on pace to be crazy off the bat. I don't expect a lot of craziness in this third preseason game. But beyond that, when they get the whole offense on the field, and not to even mention a stronger, healthier, more flexible Sammy Watkins, I think that's a huge lift as well. Something that they really need to see, especially given his contract and everything else. But the three of them together, it's just impossible really to stop them all, especially when you put them with Travis Kelce and they're all out in routes. It makes it really, really difficult. I'm going to try to get this shadow taken care of a little bit. The other rookie that's really standing out, and I don't want to come off as squashing him or anything, but Darwin Thompson is looking good. He's looking exactly how I expected him to. And for those of you that were here on that Q&A we did before camp opened, I said this is going to be the preseason of Darwin Thompson. And I certainly think it is. I think it's going even deeper as well. He's going to have a good game 3 as well. And I think that is his natural ability, his low contact points. Everybody says contact balance, and that's part of it, being able to absorb blows. But the bigger thing for me that has stood out in both these games is his acceleration and his ability to have contact strength. And that's the big deal. For a small guy, and this is what Sproles does, is the first hit, he doesn't let that take him down. Sproles not only has the speed, not that Thompson's that kind of burner. He's got good speed, and his acceleration, quite honestly, is better than I saw on film, what limited film I had before the draft. So long story short, this is going really well and going about as well as you could hope for Darwin Thompson. And it's going to be carried on much more so in week 3 and definitely in week 4 of the preseason. But then we get to the decision point. And I think his play in particular, that with Darrell Williams just being a solid option. I had hoped that Darrell would make more of an impact at this point, but he hasn't. But he has shown that he is the steady force. I think that and Carlos Hyde fumbling the ball, missing some pass block options. I think Carlos Hyde is playing himself off of the roster with these two young guys there and ready to step in. I think it's going to be really interesting. He's not a starter. He's not going to be a starter. And I know a lot of folks out there feel like he's better than Damien Williams. And first of all, there's no evidence of that. We haven't seen any of it. Damien Williams can do everything and do everything well. So don't be alarmed if they get to the regular season, Damien's going to be the starter. Is it going to be useful? Yeah, Darwin Thompson is going to get touches, and that's going to be good. The best thing is that he's going to be fresh when he comes in, and I think that's good for a guy that is smaller of stature, even though he is pretty shielded. His body's built, his upper body, especially his shoulders that are going to take a lot of contact. He's a thick guy, and I think that works in his favor. But still, you don't want to overtax him. So I think he's still going to play a fill-in role, a backup role, and that's perfectly fine. I think the best thing about it is when you get Williams, and Thompson, which I will now refer to as the law firm going forward. You get those guys together, and they're a great three-punch combo, and I think that's going to be what it's really going to come down to. Heard several people, including BJ Grunhard, talk about the fact that they feel that the run game is going to be more important this year, and that's kind of how I feel too, especially if they're doing everything they can to stop Pat Mahomes, to put 7-8 guys in coverage. That's a recipe for running against a light box, and that just makes too much sense to ignore. So that's kind of where I expect it to go. Now, that said, there's a number of other guys stepping out, a bunch on defense, and I know you guys have questions. I'm seeing them come in, so I'm not going to hold you off too much longer. But those two are what's really standing out. Juan Thornhill's coming along. He's going to be the starter week 1. I have no doubt in my mind. There's no reason to. The big question, and we should talk about this right now, is Kemp's out. If you didn't hear today, it was confirmed. ACL, MCL tear. He's going to be out. He's not going to play this season. He's going to IR. But that opens a spot for a wide receiver, but it also places a bigger emphasis on the special teams play. Whoever is that wide receiver has to contribute on special teams. And it does open the door to keep more safeties. I think this helps Lucas and Watts. I thought they were kind of in a battle for one of them to make the roster. Without Kemp, I think both of them are going to be there because they can both play special teams. And that's going to be important. That's something they're going to contribute every week, not just should they run into injuries at the safety position. So that's the way it looks to me. Other comments. Jeff Allen coming to town today, or reportedly coming to town today. Hasn't signed or announced anything yet. A lot of folks got a little worried about that. I'm not sure that it means anything drastic. Khalil McKenzie might have gone from the 8th lineman to the 9th offensive lineman. I think 9 is probably in the cards. I think they want that. And I think they see the development potential of McKenzie as well as Allegretti as something they're not going to take a chance on letting go. Trying to sneak them to the practice squad or anything like that, makes them available. So, that's going to be a little bit harder, but the injury over with Yelder opens up a spot. Maybe they only keep 2 tight ends now, so that helps you there as well. So I think Allen is a proven commodity inside, and he can help them in a way that they're comfortable with. Not necessarily what we're looking for, but that's the way that it works. So that said, that's top of my thoughts today. Had a great visit in training camp. Met Aaron out there. Aaron Morrow. Everybody say hi to Aaron. Met a bunch of people. Probably more so than I should even remember. But thank you. It was great to meet you all. And I'm glad you guys were out there. I had a great time. It's always an interesting week for me in between the first and the second preseason game. That's when I always go because you really see things change in terms of getting on the field and who's doing what. So it was definitely worth it. It was warm. I'll give you that. Glad to be back home in Colorado, to tell you the truth. And I see a ton of questions from you guys. So I'm just going to say this because I forgot to mention it at the top of the show. Super Chat is open. If you want to contribute or help the channel out, the Super Chat is the icon down at the bottom of the chat where you type in your comments. It's that little $sign. You can throw whatever you want at it, and that goes into the channel. If you do, please make sure that you add a question so that I can make sure that I get you something for that donation. I really appreciate it. The other way to support the channel, and I should have put up a picture with Aaron because he's got one of the RGR shirts that we took a picture with. the Teespring store over on the main channel in the show notes, that's another way you can help. If you find something you like, just grab it. I'm going to have some new stuff on there. I'm going to get the prices down now that we're starting to move some things. And that's kind of the way Teespring works. It's been very helpful. So that said, hit the super chat if you want to make your question stand out, and I'll get to reading here. So a lot of familiar faces. Nice to see you guys. Okay. Finn says, make me feel better about the defense. Here's the thing. Breland has been playing well in practice. I thought he was a touch slow the other night, but nothing critical. Only saw 7 snaps for Fuller, but he got his hat on a ball, nearly caused a turnover. Looks like he's a little bit crisper in his cuts. And I think it's only going to help him. By my count, the first 2 drives for the defense last week were about 50-50 in terms of zone versus man. And more zone is going to help Kendall Fuller. So I'm feeling better about that. Javarius Ward looked good in man. He got beaten coverage in zone. He's not quite sure where to go. That floating disconnected thing sometimes throws some man corners off, and that's just the way that it goes. I think he's going to adjust, and I think he'll be okay. We're going to get more Mo Claiborne this year, and so that's going to solidify that. Even if he's not an elite corner, he's solid. He's an NFL vet. He can do what he needs to do, and I think that's going to help quite a bit. Guy that stood out to me the most, and I mentioned this on the podcast that's going to come up here. It'll post here within the hour. Damien Wilson stood out to me. I like his aggressiveness. I feel like he was in the spot where he needed to be the majority of the time. I feel like he took on blockers better than Ragland and Hitchens, and I like to see that. That's the physicality that's been missing from this defense for quite a while. That always kind of drives me nuts. And let's see, I think it was the second drive where they spun up a zone blitz, and it was Wilson rushing out of the off linebacker spot that was the 4th rusher, and they kind of overloaded one side while they dropped Frank Clark back. And that's something that you're going to see more and more. Not that Frank Clark belongs in coverage, but it's going to be a mismatch. And that's, again, trying to put them where they ain't and keep them guessing so they don't know how to shift their protections to get to that quarterback. And it paid off. He flushed it from the pocket, nearly got him. The next play, Okafor comes up with the sack. So it all kind of leads together. So I'm feeling really good about that acquisition, more so than I expected to. I still want to see more out of Lee, Hitchens, and Ragland in terms of coverage. Even Hitchens and Lee are still a little bit off to me, and I think they're playing into it. I think Lee in particular is playing into his playing weight. He's heavier than he was last season or has been any season of his career. I don't know if he's going to stay there. I think you might see him kind of just by attrition lose a couple of pounds, and I think he'll be back to normal. I'm not concerned about it at this point, but it's definitely something that they're going to have to use scheme to kind of help them. Pressure up front's going to do wonders for them, and I think it's going to be all right. So that said, I think the rushers are looking good. I think you saw a glimpse of Okafor. I still feel like Okafor is going to have a career year or a possibility for a career year because of all the attention going to Chris Jones and Frank Clark. So look out for him. Pay attention to what Okafor is doing. I think you guys are going to like it. So there. Hopefully that makes you feel better, Finn. I can understand where you're coming from. Dr. Sanitary 43, do you think Fortson still has a shot on the team because he's bigger than I thought and might have potential? He definitely has potential. If you guys didn't catch my conversation with Jody Fortson, it's on the podcast from, I want to say it was the first week of OTAs. So look back in the May-June timeline, and you can find that. It was a good 20-minute conversation. I think you guys are going to like Jody Fortson if you haven't heard it already. And yes, he does have potential. I don't think he's going to make the 53. I don't think he should. I think other guys have shown that they're ready now, whereas I still feel he's come on actually in the last week, but I still feel like he's got a ways to go. A year on the practice squad, and I think he's going to be able to be a guy that can contribute in 2020. So, and I think that's good for him. He played kind of a slash wide receiver tight end. I think was it Valdosta State? I can't remember off the top of my head. It's kind of a split duty. So he's really trying to refine now that he's back to wide receiver. And I think it's going to be okay for him. I'm looking forward to, and he's a guy that I pull for. So good question. I really appreciate that one. Scott Mays, with Kemp hurt, does Pringle move up? Pringle was already the 5 in my mind. Kemp was the 6. So I don't know that Pringle moves up, but Pringle's definitely, in my mind, going to make the roster. I think it comes down to Thompson and Rashad Davis for who is the sixth. And it's contributions on special teams that's going to make the difference. Who can be a gunner now that this week's reps in practice are going to tell you, and the game 3 is going to tell you who they think can do that. They're probably going to try them both. They got to find a reason for who to keep in that 6th spot, and they have to make up some special teams performance. Good question. That was right. Andy Anderson. I got to ask, has Neiman cracked the starting lineup or at least have a chance in your opinion? No, he has not cracked the starting lineup, and he won't start unless there's an injury. But I do think he is going to be at either the Sam or in the middle if there's an injury. I think he's a better starting replacement than Darren Lee is. Darren's going to be a nickel will. That's about it. So he's definitely going to make the roster, and I think he's going to get some run. Nobody stays healthy the whole season, so I think he'll get some time. And I like him, and I do think he's improved, and I think he still does have some upside. So count Ben Neiman on the way up still. Oh, good question, Andy. Gary Holland. No defense will be able to put 8 guys in the box and unable to double team anyone without leaving somebody open. Is there not a team who will be able to stop the Chiefs offense? I don't know. That's a very, very good point. The opposite's going to be the telling point. If they want to sit back and play quarters and play underneath and drop 7, drop 8, then it's up to Mahomes to check out of passes and to run the ball, or to, at the very least, get to the screen game. I anticipate having some calls where they have their normal smash concepts, downfield routes, but the check isn't necessarily a run, but a quick screen. I think that's going to be important. And you can call it still the passing game or whatever. It's basically a long handoff. But that's what you have to do. If they're going to play back and try to, cover as much ground as they can and take away throwing lanes from Mahomes, you got to hit them with the run. If the box is light, you have to take advantage of that. That's a core principle that everyone has been coached on since forever. And a lot of people call it outdated, but I expect we saw the pendulum start to swing back towards a balanced offensive concept last year and the year before with the Titans, with the Patriots. I expect a little bit of that as everybody tries to compensate for Mahomes and his 50 touchdowns through the year. I expect the run game to get a little bit more emphasis, or at least opportunity. We'll see if they take it. Great question. Let's see. Keith Welch. I don't think I've answered your questions before. Welcome, Keith. With all the talent that's on offense has shown, who do you think will be cut? It's a really good question. I think Ryan Hunter's not going to make the roster, the interior guy. I think Pace Murphy's gotten some second-team snaps. He's not going to make it. Like I said, Davis or Thompson, one of those guys isn't going to make it. And they'll be escorted with white gloves to the practice squad, both of them. Custis, Fortson, Davis. I think they're all going to be on the practice squad. I don't think any of them have a shot at making the roster right now. I have my fingers crossed that John Lovett can. The injury is going to be the telling point because they don't have another H. And an H is a wrinkle you can put in this offense to, I think, a dizzying effect. So I want to see them keep Lovett. I just don't know if he's healthy enough to do it. So you could see him cut as well. And again, he will be escorted directly to the practice squad. Beyond that, right now I feel like Hyde's going to get cut. I can't say that that's really going to surprise me. So I think I'm worried about Yelder. He could go to IR. If he doesn't go to IR, but he's still hurt, he may get cut and they try to slide him onto the practice squad as well. Same with Nick Keiser. That could happen too. I don't know. Those are some guys to look at. Good question, Gary. Keith. Thank you for that one. Dwight Raleigh, been a while for you too. How are you? Will the defense look better during the regular season? I think it will, because right now they're playing vanilla. They're playing basic concepts, basic hook zones for the linebackers. Nothing schematically that's going to help them. So when the regular season comes around and they're game planning and they're running scheme, that changes things, and it takes away some of the blandness. What you're seeing now is basically what Bob Sutton ran the whole time, where he didn't do anything different. He didn't do anything that was a surprise, and it really hurt the defense overall. So, yeah, I do expect it to pop up there afterwards, Dwight. Maui, bro. Aloha. Hope you're doing good. I will try to get back there for some Honolulu Beer Works maybe next year. All right. Wolverine has won Thornhill, lived up to what you thought he'd be. Yes. Maybe just a touch short, but yes, he's showing all the athleticism. He's showing the ball skills. I had hoped that he'd be up there with the ones running solid by now, but that could just be, institutional bias because Dan Sorensen's been here a while. But I said the day he was drafted, he's the best athlete at safety in this draft. And he makes plays, and nothing has happened to show me different. So, yeah, I'm really happy with his progress so far. Now, can he get to live games against the ones, come the regular season, we'll see where the rubber hits the road. Good question. Let's see. Gary Barnett, how are you? Don't think you've asked before. Is Hardman the Watkins replacement next year? He can be. I don't think they want him to be. An underrated aspect of what Sammy does is he lines up at X a lot. And that means he has to beat man coverage. He has to be more physical. A lot of what Hardman did in college was out of the slot, where he didn't have any contact, where he could run away from people. I don't like – now, Andy runs, and Lewis as well. They emphasize everybody has to be able to play all three positions. And, if you wrangle in the slot on the other side when they go for, whatever, you can call that whatever you want. He's got to be able to do it all, but I don't think that's what you want from him. So I think most likely if Sammy has a solid season, you're looking at a reduced contract extension to try and take down his dollar amount. But I think if Sammy lives up to and can stay healthy, I think they would want him back. Just they need it at a reduced number. So something to look for. Good question, though. Who's next? Andy Anderson. Is the offensive line good enough to run 5 wide? Yeah, not a problem. It's not when you're just dropping back and you're just pass proing. I mean, this is what Washington State does. This is what Leach did for a long time in college. You're just getting the ball out. And there's too many guys, and especially on this team, there's too many guys with mismatched speed. Even if you're talking about Damien Williams out of the backfield, he's got mismatched speed on a linebacker. So that won't be a problem. It's when they try to run out of a set from under center, teams are twisting on them, sending stunts. That's where it gets difficult. These guys are athletic, and they're good in pass pro. I think the run game is where it gets a little more challenging, especially if you're showing run and there's running stunts at you. Good question. Let's see. Aaron Morrow. Thank you, sir. Once again, great to see you out there at camp. His question, Damien, Darrell, and Darwin. Can we go triple D? I think that's perfectly fine. I like the Williams, and Thompson thing, but, I'm partial to law shows on TV, so that's all it comes down to. Let's see. Tim Countryman, how are you, pal? Do you think the starters will play into the third quarter? I do not. I think some of them, like Mahomes, will come out in the second quarter. I don't expect a full half from him. I don't think you want a full half from him. You don't need it. You want enough so that he's continuing to work on the things that he needs to work with, but you don't want to take any chances. So I would say Mahomes probably out mid-second and the starters play. You could see a couple offensive linemen play into the third, depending on how they're doing the subs. If they are really trying to find out about McKenzie and about Allegretti, you might put them in there with Schwartz still in, or with Wiley still in, just so they can get an idea of playing next to those guys. That does have something to do with it. So you could see a little bit of that. Let's see. Metal Rocker X. It's good. Oh, sorry, I missed you too, man. I'm glad to see. What do you think about the Chiefs getting Claiborne for the defense? I think it's a stopgap measure, and I think it's a Band-Aid that'll help. I think it allows you not to put all the pressure on Charvarius Ward. I think it allows you to fill in if Fuller isn't 100%, like we've heard some rumors of. So I think it's going to cover your bases for you, and I'm glad that they did it. EJ Gaines got cut. He's got an injury. I'm not sure what that injury is or how definite it is, but he's another guy, EJ Gaines, who's been around the block. Another veteran who's solid but not spectacular that could end up added. I would definitely be making calls for him. Let's see. Gary Holland, what's wrong with Pringle? Pringle started hot, And I think he's just having trouble separating from some of the guys that are more experienced. When he goes against the ones, he hasn't been able to really get loose as much. Remember last year, he performed really well, but that was against 2s and 3s. So I think that's what it is. I don't think there's anything wrong with him. I just think he's hitting a little bit of a lull. I think he will continue to progress, and I'm not worried about Pringle at all. And Russell 11. Are you part of the Herb Miller fan club? Oh, Herb has his own fan club. That's great. I'm intrigued by Herb Miller. I didn't get to watch film of him. There wasn't any film available that I could find pre-draft. He played well early in preseason game 2 against the Steelers, and he got torched the rest of the game. The second half was pretty rough, especially at the end on the touchdown. So it's up and down, but you expect that for a young guy. And I think he's shown the length and the physicality that you need. And I think, again, kind of like Ward, if he can get some more reps in zone to know where he's supposed to be in that kind of in between, playing in space is tough. I like what I've seen from him, and I think he's got a shot at making the roster. So we got to see what he does in the next couple of weeks, but I think he's definitely in the mix. Let's see. I like the name, by the way, of the fan club. Aaron again. Does Yelder get put on IR also? He does if it's that significant. I haven't heard. We might hear tomorrow, although they didn't do anything today, so they might not have an update. I'm thinking Wednesday for sure we should know something. Let's see. Anthony Bowles, how are you? Do you think Pringle's spot is up for grabs due to the way he's looked in the 2 preseason games? I don't think so. That doesn't ring for me. Yeah, he's struggled a little bit, but I don't think that's knocked him down in any way. I think the team still likes him. I don't think his spot's up for grabs. I think Davis and Thompson are interesting, but I don't think they're going to push him out of the way. Honestly, I think Thompson is the Pringle from last season. A lot of Pringle questions. There we go. Aaron Morrow, what's going on with Matthew? A little bit of a shoulder contusion. It just got hit at a bad angle. I didn't hear any stinger talk, so I think he's fine neurologically. I think he'll be back out there for game 3. Not a problem. Trenton Prettyman, thoughts on Blake Bell's performance? If you had to pick a backup tight end right now, who would it be? Bell up and down. I mean, there's no other way to put it. He's made a couple of nice catches. He's dropped some easy stuff. I think he blocks better than Yelder by a little bit right now, so he would probably be my pick. If I was going to keep 3 deep, it would be him and Yelder, definitely. I just don't know what's up with Yelder. That'll tell you the tale. Cole Kelleher, how are you? Do you think Shurmur has a chance to make the roster given his performance in the preseason? I think he is the third quarterback. I think he has surpassed Litton. I don't think they're going to keep 3 for the regular roster. There's too many other things that they have stacks of guys there. I think they can get Shurmur and Litton to the practice squad. I think one or both of them does go there. I think they'll probably designate them both to be cut and practice squatted. And I think another team will probably steal one of them. So either way, I think right now I prefer Shurmur, to tell you the truth. And I'm a Litton fan. I was coming out of college too. So that tells you what he's done. J-Dub, with Kemp down, do you think Cody Thompson has a chance? Yes. He's in a fight, but I think he does have a chance. Next. Oh, Victor Perfecto. Really? Team Seth? He's not even on here. That's for the pod channel, man. This is all me. You're not going to find Seth here. But folks, if you're Team Ryan, let Victor know in the comments there. Next question. Tim Countryman, do you think Thornhill looked good against Pittsburgh? Is Matthews okay? Matthews is going to be fine, and I think Thornhill did look pretty good. A couple of missteps I saw, but for the most part, I thought he was on. I'm feeling really good about him. Young Adam, yeah, I think Cody Thompson's up for Kemp's spot. More faves. Andy loves his vets. Will that force Hyde and Sorensen onto the team? That's a good point. And I think that's what's kept Carlos Hyde here to this point. But when you're dropping the ball and you're missing blocking assignments in pass protection with the MVP holding the ball, that's going to get you knocked down pretty quick. At this point, I don't think Hyde makes it unless he has a big turnaround this week. I do think Sorensen does. I think he's the third safety, and I'm fine with that. You saw them when they aligned with Thornhill in the back, Matthew at the robber, and Sorensen up tight. That's the best way to do it because everybody's playing to their strengths at that point. That's what Dan does well, and I'm perfectly fine with him being on the roster as the third. I just don't want him as a starter, and I certainly don't want him at a free safety spot. Let's see. Austin How? Sorry, I probably massacred that. Sorry, Austin. What do you make of the current contract situation with Hill and Jones? I think it's a toss-up. I think both of them need to be signed. I think they're probably in better shape with Hill. I think they were willing to pay him what he was worth on the market before. And yeah, I think that's probably come down a little bit because of the situation, but I think they're way closer than I think Jones sees himself as a Donald level player, and I don't think the team does. Or I don't think the team does yet. If he does it again for a second season in a row, then I can certainly see that. So I think Hill gets done first, even though there's rumor of Jones talking now. Maybe he's decided to take a lesser contract, and good for him if he did. The chance of the Super Bowl has a tendency to bend guys' will a little bit. So let's hope that's true. Norman Schreck, in your opinion, did Pittsburgh Steelers keep running the blitz defense just in the preseason? Oh, why did they? I don't know. It's kind of silly. I would have been a little perturbed by it if I were Mahomes and Reed. No reason for it. So I think they were just frustrated getting beat up last year. And, you got to scheme. You got to try to execute your defense even in the preseason. And theirs does have a lot of zone blitz, but it's just a little uncalled for. So I don't know. I got nothing. Okay. Scott Meza, defensive line at camp. I saw a couple of good reps out of Saunders, and I feel like he's coming on. Everybody's kind of poo-pooing him, but he makes the roster, and I think he's going to play a role later in the season. He's got a ways to go. Right now, they're still trying to make him play inside, and what I've seen is he's not shooting gaps. He's not set up to play that yet, and I think that will come along. He's got to work some fundamentals, I think, from Brendan Daly, and I think that's fine. I can't say there's anything wrong with that. I think it'll work out just fine in the end. I'm not concerned about him. The rest of them, I think Ogba's kind of slugging it out. I think Speaks can go inside and play just fine. We saw him come off the edge as well, so he's a nice tweener there. I think that's fine. Noddy looks great. Love the way he plays. Ivy and Hamilton are kind of in a battle right now, and that may mean the end of Xavier Williams on this roster. I don't know how it's going to turn out. This third preseason game is going to mean a lot. So watch those three: Ivy, Hamilton, Xavier, and that'll give you some better idea. I'm looking forward to that. Oh, do we have to go there? Really? All right. And Russell 11, Antonio Brown stories make me laugh. What a head case. Not a question, but is that guy crazy? Yeah, he's crazy. This is why when everybody was talking about him and Lev Bell and trying to get them to Kansas City, I said, stomped my feet up and down and said, no, this is why. Now, Lev hasn't done anything yet. Doesn't mean he won't. So when it comes down to that, when you get guys that are more about themselves than about the team, that's where things go wrong. Everybody has to look out for the contract. That's normal. This is a business. This is how you get paid. But when you put that above everything else, same way I feel about Jalen Ramsey, and I'm glad he's not in Kansas City. I hope that he doesn't get there. It's one thing to do something funny, to come to camp in a Ferrari like Marvin Harrison did, or, in a NASCAR like Sherman did. It's a whole different thing to hire a Brinks truck to shout out how great you are and how much money you deserve. So Jalen Ramsey, you can stay in Jacksonville as far as I'm concerned, or anywhere else that isn't Kansas City. I see a lot of that. I see a lot of AB in Jalen. I'm just going to put it that way. Kenny Roberts, what do you think? Who do you think will be the second tight end? I still think it's Bell right now. If Yelder comes back and they're only going to keep one, I think Yelder might have some more upside. But with the injury, I think it's going to be Bell. Todd Perry, good question. Is Dorian O'Daniel going to make this team? If the number crunch comes down, he's one of the guys on the fence. He has not adapted to this defense very well. The staff does not seem very keen on him. But he does have athletic ability, and I think they're going to give him a chance. They spent a good draft pick on him, and I think they want to let him grow into it. I do think he makes this roster right now. I think the backups are going to be Lee, Neiman, and Dorian. So that's where I think it sits right now. We'll see what happens in week 3. Hopefully he makes more of an impact because we haven't seen him do a whole lot. There we go. S. Burke, are you at all concerned about Colin Saunders? It seems to be pretty slow coming off the ball. I agree with you. we saw him bull rush a couple times the other night pretty well. And we saw one rep where he actually took off, and that's his ability. I think he's way in his head right now. I think he's thinking too much. I think he's a little overwhelmed. I think some of his base technique is easily countered. I think that's the things that they're working on. So I think as it goes along, he's going to clean that up, and I think he's going to get more comfortable. That's why I said I really feel like by the time November rolls around, I think he's going to be in a position to play some snaps and help you out. Scott Meza. Could you see the leadership by Honey Badger at camp for the secondary? Not so much vocally on the field. I'm sure in the film room he is, in the meeting rooms he is. He led by his actions. He played well at camp, came up with a lot of plays. He moved guys around, and he certainly has a command for the defense and a command for his teammates. They listen to him. But I wouldn't say it's very evident just watching them practice. Wolverine, hey, thank you for donation. I appreciate it. Your question is, has Juan Thornhill lived up to my expectations? Yes, definitely. And I do want to see him progress. He's not all the way there. This is where I expected him to be come the end of preseason. So that's fine. But then it gets down to the regular season, and everybody who doesn't belong is gone. Then you have to step it up another notch, and you got to be able to perform and make plays against teams, ones. There are no more 2s and 3s and backups and whatever. Everybody's an NFL player at that point. That's what he's got to start making plays. So I think he's on track. I think he's moving in the right direction, and I feel pretty good about him. Good question. Jeff Lever. Tano has the physical tools. If he puts it together between the shoulder pads, how good can he be? I think you see him being very more comfortable. I think you see him in his natural state, rushing with his hand down. He's not an outside linebacker, never was, neither was Speaks. Square pegs, round holes. It just wasn't going to work. I don't know if he can be a force, but as a backup to Okafor, I think it's great. He can't get in coverage like Okafor, but he can push the pocket. He can get around the edge. He is explosive. He is super long, and I think he's going to play to his strengths, and I think Brendan Daly's going to get the most out of him. So I am very optimistic about what Tano Passanio can do in this particular defense. Yes. Another AB. Sorry. You guys are making me laugh with this stuff. Oakland's in a tough spot. And I feel bad for Mike Mayock because I feel like John kind of twisted his arm into some of these guys, including AB and Psycho Incognito. And Perfect even too. So he's in a tough spot. And I think it comes down to you got to push players sometimes. And that ultimatum he put out, you either got to be all the way with us or all the way out. Okay. More power to him. I don't think Mayock's going to take much grief. And I think as this relationship goes forward for those two, they're going to be more formidable in years to come than they are going to be in 2019. Let's see. Okay. And Russell, I covered Tano. Curtis Douglas. Thoughts on the linebacker? Seems like the underneath stuff was open in both games. Why is Darren Lee playing so much? I agree with you. The underneath stuff was not covered that well. They're trying to learn the drops. They're trying to learn expectations and calls, etc. Darren Lee is playing a lot because they don't know how to use him. They're trying to figure out if he can be more than a nickel linebacker. And that's why he's going to continue to play a ton, because they got to figure it out. He came back heavier than he played in New York. I think that was because they asked him to, because they wanted him to be a little more stout against the run. They want to be able to move all those linebackers around and kind of switch them out at will and not have to have, dedicated spots where only X guy can come in for the starter. So that's what I think. So I expect to see a lot more Darren Lee all the way through in the fourth game as well. Morpheus, with Ragland playing into the fourth quarter, is he a realistic cut candidate? He could be. Again, they're trying to figure out what he can and can't do. He lined up at Sam. He's lined up even at will once against the Steelers, Pittsburgh, that is. They still have him slated as a starter. I don't think they're going to go from a starter to cutting him. He's got the mentality they want. He's a dog. He is intense. He's got to get a little more strong at the point of attack. He's got it in him, and I don't know if he's still thinking too much or what, but I think he makes the roster. Is he going to start the whole season? I don't think so, but I think he is going to start the season as the starter. Every indication from the team is that that's what's going on. So playing into the fourth quarter is a sign as well. So you're not wrong. I just don't know if it just means they're still trying to see how much versatility they can get out of him or whether they're really concerned. He played early too. So if he hadn't played early, I'd be way more concerned about him. Good question. Adrian Long, who is the tight end 2? And is he on the roster now? I don't believe it is. You could be right. They could try and trade for somebody, but I don't think that's really at the top of their list. I think they're more worried about the corners. They clearly are a little more worried about the offensive line with the Allen signing. I just don't think the tight end 2 is going to be something they're going to break the bank for. So you could be right. There's always cut downs, and there's going to be some decent guys available. Maybe guys that are better than Blake Bell. I can see that for sure. Kelly Blevins, do you think KC will do a trade between now and week 1? It's possible. They have some surplus. They have surplus at the D line, and they honestly have some surplus depth at O line. Certainly the wide receivers. Hyde, maybe. You could see a low value trade happen without much effort. Jeff Lever, thoughts on Herb Miller making the 53? Right now, I think he's on. We'll see how he plays this next week. He's still got to prove it. Braden Conzum, was Carlos Hyde's performance something to be worried about? Yes, 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 and yes. Oh, shoot. Scrolled too far. Hold on. Coming back down. There we go. Annie Anderson, a signing is rumored tomorrow on Twitter, and it's not Jeff Allen. Any ideas? I don't know if there's anybody out there that's worth signing. Maybe they did check on Gaines and they're comfortable with what the injury status was or whatever. I don't know. That could be it. I really haven't heard of anybody else really making any noise in free agency that they'd be really looking at. I'll be interested to see as well. Let's see here. Where'd we go? Oh, there we go. J-Dub. Who's been playing better, Speaks or Tano Passanio? I think Tano Passanio has. In terms of production, sure. I think Speaks is doing a decent job, though. I think he also is losing some weight through attrition. I think that's going to help him a little bit. He came back. Yeah, you want to be heavier if you're going to play inside to the 3-tech like he's going to. It didn't look like good weight, though. So I think he's slimming up a little bit, and I think that's going to help his burst, and I think that'll help him overall. Binder Believer, thank you for the donation. That's a huge one. Thanks, pal. I tell you what, you guys help the channel run when you do stuff like that. That's how I get new lights and how I get new software and how I can do those remote videos from camp and everything and have it actually look decent. So thank you guys for all of your donations all the time. Binder, I didn't get a question from you, though. I want to make sure you get something for your money. Thank you, my friend. Michael Rodriguez, sorry. A lot of ladies have been joining the channel lately, by the way, fellas, so be nice to them. With Tano playing like this, is he going to start week 1? No, it's going to be Okafor unless there's an injury. Okafor's the starter, and Tano will back him up. I'm really interested to see if it's the 3 of them, those 2 and Clark, with Jones at some point in kind of a NASCAR thing. I'm really looking forward to that part. And we saw some linebacker blitzes the other night. That's going to be really interesting, too. You can see some sub packages where if you feel like you're getting a drop off when Tano comes in, that they're going to blitz some linebackers next to him. That's going to make some hard decisions for the tackles and the running backs. Who's next? Okay, Adam Daughtry. Do you foresee short passes or deep balls this year? I think it's going to be a better mixture. You're still going to see the home run swings, I guarantee, because these guys can get loose. It's going to be when you catch them in the right defense and they're not playing deep quarters or deep thirds. I think you're going to see a lot of cover 3 and cover 4 with a lot of guys deep. So that's going to necessitate that intermediate route. And you're going to see more. To combat that, you're going to suck them in. You're going to run some jet motion. You're going to run those shallow drags and just let them get yak and get everybody's tendency, their natural instinct to creep up towards the line. And when you do, then you hit the bomb. So I think you're going to see a little bit more balance this season. Let's see. That was a good one, Adam Daughtry. Aaron Marco Thompson, talked about him. Yeah, I think he's in a fight to make the roster. He has a chance. Mike McCoy. Oh, thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. He's right on the edge, Aaron. I think Cody Thompson could make the 53. If he doesn't, he'll definitely be on the practice squad unless another team squashes him and steals him away. Gary Holland, will Wade and Fields make the team? They're battling for spots. Um, I like what Mark Fields brings. I don't know the guy personally. I've heard he's got coachability issues. It looks like some of that's turned around. Certainly in college, he ran up against the wall and he didn't play because of it. Looks like he's doing better now, but he missed a couple tackles the other night, and you cannot be a corner that misses tackles, period. He's got to get that straightened out. I think coverage in his athletic ability, sticking and mirroring receivers, I think he's great. I think he deserves to be on the roster from that standpoint, but he's got to put it all together and he's got to be coachable. Maximo, thanks for your donation. Appreciate that. Come back and ask a question, though. Evan I, thanks for your donation. Anyone caught your eye at training camp? A couple did. Fortune, I thought, is taking a step forward. Rashad Davis really stood out in person. And now Chris on the podcast has been pumping him up for weeks, and I've been kind of whatever. He stood out. Makes good cuts. He's the third guy. There's only 3 guys that I've seen do the loop motion behind Mahomes, and that is Hill, Hardman, and Rashad Davis. So I'm real interested in that. Herb Miller looked interesting. Fenton stood out in a way that made me question whether he can really be a nickel. He can certainly play in zone, but I question whether he's got the change of direction skills to stick with, the guys that they're going to have to see. They're going to see Edelman eventually. There are some of these issues. So that question a little bit. Damien Wilson stood out in practices. Ivy stood out a little bit. I didn't see Okafor practice. He was out most of the time. Tano and Speaks looked better. So I won't say they both stood out, but they both said something. So thanks, Evan. Appreciate the donation. Let's see. Justin Troball. Any news on the Honey Badger injury? No, nothing yet. Monday is a rest day for them, so you won't see him do much. We'll probably find out either Tuesday or possibly Wednesday after they've come in and got treatment and all that. It's kind of approaching a regular weekly schedule now. So Tuesdays are an off day. Monday is rehab and, injury checkout kind of thing. Sometimes we don't get announcements till Wednesday. We'll find out. Gary Holland, are you worried playing starters in the preseason? Yeah, it's always a worry. Not so much for the defenders. Guys get hurt, but defenders are usually the ones bringing the velocity, and I think that protects you in collisions. Quarterbacks, certainly. Veterans of a certain age that might be a little bit, approaching the end. I'm always a little worried about that. I wouldn't play Schwartz as much as they're playing him. That's just me. Good question, Gary. Curtis Douglas, what's up with the Steelers running the blitzes? Yep, I talked about that earlier. I think they were just kind of angry about last season. They had to try stuff out, but it was like 50-50 in the first couple of drives, and I thought it was unnecessary. And Russell Levin, what do you think the Chargers injuries mean for the AFC West landscape? I think it means that the Broncos are a little bit closer to the Chargers. I think they're going to get Derwin back. So by the time the Chiefs play them, I think it's still going to be okay. I still expect the Chargers to be second in the division. Mason Baker, do you think the Chargers are still playoff contenders? Yeah, I think they are. I think Eckler can run just fine. And I think they'll get Derwin back eventually. Just don't tell Damien because he might want to run him over again. Kelly Blevins, do you get the feeling that the first string offense, including Mahomes, didn't want to be out there and really looked flat the first couple of drives? Yeah, they did. It was rainy and slushy and they'd been delayed forever. And quite frankly, they got frustrated because Pittsburgh brought out all this regular season blitzing package that quite frankly, the team wasn't prepared for. To this point, they haven't done scheming. They haven't worked on that. They're trying to get their base offense down. And so, yeah, it's frustrating. It's hard to get any work done when the other guy's rooting you on TV. So, yeah, that's the way I take it. Thank you. Casey K. I don't want to ask this, but if the injury bug gets the honey badgering in this year, who will be our starting safeties? It'll be Sorensen and Thornhill. Sorensen can come in and play that closer to the line of scrimmage role. It won't be as good, but he can do it. You'll see Watts or Lucas at that point as the third. Oh, let's not even talk about that. Hardman is not Watkins. Yeah, you're right. Scott Mesa, I talked about Tano. I don't think I have anything else to add to that. Brian Smith, can Chiefs please get a better wolf as a mascot? Okay. I can't do anything about that. Dr. Sanitary 43, what do you think of the death set? Is that what we're calling it? Of Hill Watkins, Hardman, Vermont, Smith running out of the backfield. I think it's interesting. I think it's also significant that Smith didn't play any offense in week 2. I think he's a wrinkle waiting to happen. And I think it may take a little bit of time. So don't be discouraged if it doesn't. I think eventually they'll get him out there. Let's see. Mike McCoy, what do you think of the defense overall? And keep this channel up. Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, hey, I didn't realize this was your first time live. Yeah, this is the way it goes. I just yak and yak and yak. But you guys have a lot of good questions, so it works. Thank you for watching all the videos. I much appreciate it. I put a lot of work into that, and much to the chagrin of my wife. Let's see. Mike Kelleher. Sorry, I always do that. No, it's Cole. I'm losing it now. And Paralegal Thompson. I'm down with that. The law firm of Williams & Williams, headed by Paralegal Thompson. I like that, Cole. I can run with that. Samir Mika, thank you for your donation. Who's going to be the slot receiver, in my opinion? I think it's going to rotate. I think you're going to see Hardman run out of the slot quite a bit. You can see DeMarcus come in and maybe move Sammy over or move Ty over, and so that'll happen too. I don't really like DeMarcus out of the slot, although he's done it. I really want to see Hardman run out of there predominantly. I think that's a great spot for him. Maximo 101. Do you like the linebackers we have? Any issues that you don't like? I want more. I want more aggression. I want more. I want somebody that can jack the guard onto his butt. So I like a more aggressive, stronger set of linebackers. These guys are built to run. Reggie's kind of a tweener. That's just me. Leighton Vander Esch is a guy that I was really high on. I wanted to see him in a Chiefs uniform because he can run and he can jack guards and knock them on their butts and just destroy the run game. And I love that. So that's something that I'd like to see. Chris Jacoby, do you think Darwin Thompson can make the starting job? No. He's not a starter. Maybe in year 2. And certainly in spot duty, but no, I don't think he's done anything to deserve the starting role yet. He's not 100% in the offense yet. He's going to be a backup, and I think a quality backup. But I do think you're going to see him play really well the next 2 weeks in the preseason. So enjoy that, and then he's going to get some run in the regular season too. Hopefully later in the year, bring those fresh legs in. I look forward to that. And Russell, I talked about Herb Miller earlier. Denny thinks Cody makes the team 100%. Okay, rock on. I can get down with it. I like him. He gives you a little bit of that Welker Edelman kind of thing, not just that he's a skinny white receiver. He cuts well. He gets loose well. He could run shallows and intermediate routes across the middle, and I like what he does. So tough dude too. Do you still have fears about our man DOD doesn't make the roster? I don't know about fears. I think it is a possibility, but right now I haven't making it, Anthony. So I think Dorian's got to step up some still, though. But I do think he makes it. Aaron Morrow, what is Chris talking about with the Steelers having class? I don't know. I got nothing. That's an expectation I can't back up. Young Adam, if they cut Hyde, do they only keep 3 running backs and Sherman? If they cut Hyde, they could still keep 4 in order to keep Tremont Smith. If they want him to just be the returner and let him grow into the running back role, that's certainly something that can happen. And he has a lot that he can bring with that speed. And you got to remember, once he catches a screen pass or once he gets, on an outside zone, if he can get to daylight, then he's just running, just like he does in kick returns. That could be something special. He's got more speed than Thompson. So, like, in terms of somebody that can hit the corner and get downfield like the old 25 used to do, I think Smith's a better bet for that kind of breakaway speed than Thompson is. That was a good question. Adam Daughtry, any closer to the RGR koozie to keep my beer cool? I am working on that. I had a design out to another vendor, and they were going to stitch it, embroider it, and they wanted to sell them for like $23. And so if I was going to make my normal $2, then, $25 for a koozie is ridiculous. So I nixed that. I'm still looking for somebody. As soon as I can find one, I'll get that done. I might even get some glassware too. I don't know. Thanks, Adam, though. I appreciate it. Why was Pittsburgh so classless? I got nothing. Denny B. Sorensen getting out of the Sutton system and moving to a traditional 4-3 helps. Love he's a tackler. You're absolutely right. He is a good tackler, and he plays stronger up there as a true strong safety. So, yeah, I think that is good for him. Adam Daughtry, thank you. Aaron Morrow, thank you. J-Dub, that's a great question. I should get those. I'll get some Team Seth ones too, just to be fair, but I think I'll make 2 or 3 Team Ryans. How's that? And Russell, no update on Tano. Just he's continuing to roll. Harry Mills, I agree with you. Until the last week, I thought Hamilton was better than Ivy. Now I see them neck and neck. Finn, I think that as a family of gingers, we appreciate the Pro Ginger Club. Big Chief Sean made it. How are you, Sean? It's his birthday. Everybody give him a hand. Happy birthday, Sean. And check out his channel, Big Chief Sean, on YouTube. You can find him on Twitter as well. He was in one of the videos last week when we were at camp. So I'm glad you guys got to see him. You need to check him out. He does a great job. Incredible tailgate stuff. He's a man of the kingdom, and you guys need to know him. Sean, we need to hook up and do something. I got a couple of ideas for back and forth on YouTube. Denny B. Saunders is way heavy right now. That's a fair point. I think as he thins out a little bit, I think that will come with just the workload. So I look forward to that as well. Nathan Altick, who do you got making the practice squad? At least one of the quarterbacks, probably 3 or 4 wide receivers, 1 or 2 offensive linemen, and at least 1 corner. And that's 7-ish. So I'll be pleasantly surprised by the others. How's that? Let's see. J-Dub, who's been playing better as of late, Ragland or Hitchens? It's a toss-up. Man, I would say in general, probably Hitchens just by a hair. I am in the process of rewatching the game. There's no all 22 in preseason. So that's the problem. I don't get to review film like I normally do. And watching the broadcast over and over sometimes doesn't even give you anything new that you can look at. So I'm going to say they're pretty close right now. They're both low-end starters. I think the team's going to be okay. Good question, Jay. Scott Mays, are the Chiefs going to rotate Tremont Smith back to special teams since Kemp? He was never – Kemp and he don't do the same thing. He's a returner. He's not going to be a gunner. So that doesn't really have an effect. But I do think they're keeping him for his return ability and to keep Hardman and Hill from having to do returns. And if he can then grow into some kind of role as a running back, I think that'll work just fine. Let's see. I would like to know. Oh, wait, Sean, I didn't finish your question. I was so excited you were on here. So I'd like to know, in percentage-wise, how much our defense was held back by Sutton, I assume you mean. And I'm going to say a good 30%. Players have to execute what they're told to do, but when everybody else knows what they're doing, it's tough. So that's the way it looks like to me. Let's see. Jason Lozar, welcome. I don't think I've read one of your questions before. Just came in and don't know if you answered, but I think Cody Thompson could take Kemp's place because to me, he's one that's standing out and producing. I agree with you, Jason. The only difference is if he's going to literally take Kemp's place, he's got to be a gunner on the special teams. And I don't think I've seen him do that at all. Maybe that happens this week in practice. We're going to find out a lot in this third preseason game about those back end 5, 6, 7th wide receivers because they're in a dogfight. Dr. Senator, do you think people are starting to forget how good Damien Williams is in Kareem Hunt's absence? Absolutely. You guys, here's the thing the national media always forgets. They cut Kareem Hunt and they brought in Damien Williams, and the yards per carry went up for this offense. That's the truth. So you can tell me all you want about Kareem Hunt and his running style. And honestly, I don't think Thompson's that much like Kareem Hunt. Yeah, he has good contact balance, but it's a special term these days. He's quicker. That's the big difference. And he's not as bulky, so he can be brought down. He's got to fight through first contact. So, yeah, I think Damien is really being underrated, especially by the national media right here. Okay. Nathan Altic, who's your 6 corners? Okay. Fuller, Breland, Ward. Fuller, Breland, Claiborne, Ward. Probably Wade and Fields. Those are my 6 right now. I got to see a little bit more. It's not written in stone, but that's where I got them right now. Okay. Man, I am falling behind. We're almost at an hour, folks, so I'm going to try to hit these real fast. Metal Rocker X, do you think there's a chance that Tano could rush from the opposite side of Cloak and Arc for? Yes, I think he can. I saw him do it in college, so I'm not saying that's an impossibility. Austin Ellison, I can't answer fantasy questions. I've barely even looked at mine this year. I'm only playing 1 league this year. That's how busy I've been. Maximo, do you like how Darwin plays? Yeah, I do it, and he does look more explosive to me than I expected. Let's see. S. Burke, with Burfict and Sanders, are you worried about playing the Raiders? Not worried. They've played Burfict before. You got to pay attention to that guy. You got to pay attention to Incognito. So yeah, I won't say worried, but you got to be on your toes. Will Mahomes put the dagger in Brady this year, Scott Meza? Yeah, I think this is the year that it changes. I think Tom Brady recognized that when he wanted to go talk to Mahomes after that game. I think that's significant. So that's what I'm looking for. Aaron, I did talk about DOD. I think he's just having a rough time adjusting. I think he will get it done, and I think he makes the roster. Fight Clan, do you think Javarius Ward is good enough? I think he's good enough to be a 4. I'm not convinced that he's a starting material guy. I've said that from the get-go, but I will say he looks improved to me, even from where he was last season. So I want to give him some credit. But if Mo Claiborne starts and Ward gets to be the 4th, like I said 6 months ago, I think that's a really good thing for Ward because it takes the pressure off him. It lets him learn to play zone better, which is going to be 50% of this defense. I thought it might only be 40. It might even be more than 50. So I think that's a disadvantage for him, and I think that buys him some time to learn. Gary Holland, Ryan Thompson, Sproles, or Barry Sanders? Barry Sanders, no question. Can Watts supplant Sorensen as the number 3? Nathan Altic, no, not right now. Especially when Sorensen's got to play in the box. And Armani's just at a disadvantage there. I think Armani could actually play the robber role, what you're going to see Matthew play pretty well. So look for that. Excuse me. Aaron, I haven't heard of that backup tight end they brought in either. I don't think we're going to have to worry about it much longer. The past 2 preseason games, what are your thoughts on the special teams? Where do you think they're at? I think they're a plan in motion. They're not there yet. They look a little disconcerted, and I saw Dave Tobe get a little frustrated a couple of times. I think that's going to get corrected. I'm not too worried. Can I get a woo pig suey? Okay. All right. Rock on, man. Do you see Ada Ocho making the team? Tim Countryman, not right now. I really can't. So I like him, but I don't think so. Stephen Kramer, Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Yep. I'll probably have a Jayhawk jersey on some point during the season, by the way, folks. Don't be alarmed. Maximo, do you think Emmanuel Agba makes the team? Right now, it's a stretch. He's borderline in my book. We'll see what he does this next week. Emilio, I talked about Javarius a couple of times. Can we see you next year at camp? I'm sorry, Stephen Kramer. Can we next year get a training camp live with you, Chris, and Seth? Yeah, we can try to do that. It's always hard to get the 3 of us because we kind of split. I do the YouTube thing. Seth's on the radio a lot. Maybe we can put something together where we can do a live. Usually what we do, and if you guys are around, if you're at camp when we're at camp, we find a spot to sit down afterwards, and we all sit at a table and just go through the day's practice. More than happy to have guests or folks standing around watching that. So there's another way to do a live. Let's see. Is Dieter done or what, Hog Farmer? I think Dieter's going to go either on IR or to the practice squad. I believe he's still practice squad eligible. I might have to check with Matt Derrick on that, but I don't think he makes the 53. He hasn't practiced in weeks. I don't know the severity of the back issue. They keep saying spasms, but I don't buy that he should be out there at this point. Maximo, do the Chiefs stay with 2 punters? No, there'll only be 1 on the 53. Fox will go to the practice squad. There's the 8th practice squatter. Scott Conklin just got on here. I feel like if we looked at our first drive against the Steelers, they aren't going to be in the playoffs. That was really frustrating. Don't worry about it. It was out of sorts. Yeah, don't worry about it. Let's see. Longmorn 16. Like I said, he's just having trouble adjusting, and they have some better athletes, better guys in the 4-3 ahead of him. He is still the better athlete. So he's going to make the roster, I think, and I think he'll fill in. Kareem Owens, we need an upgrade at middle linebacker. I'd like to see him take some highfalutin guy in the next draft. I'll tell you that. Evan I, thanks for your donation again. I think that's the second one tonight. Thanks, bud. The franchise greater than Hard Knocks. And I have to give a shout out to the 65 Toss Power Trap producers. If you guys missed episode 6 of the franchise, they grabbed a quote from the podcast and put me in it right about the 15-minute mark when Sherman goes to camp. Imagine that, tying me in with something Sherman's doing. But yeah, the franchise, it's going to be up for an Emmy. I'm pretty sure. It's produced so well. Even the voiceover work is incredible. And by the way, Chiefs 65, if you guys want somebody to do the voiceover next year, I got you covered. Week 1. Thanks for the donation, Evan. Patrick Mitchell, sorry. Week 1, how many points for KC? I'm going to say 37. Big test. I'm glad you made it. Jimmy Phillips. Oh, with the AB situation completely gone south, will we get any calls from Oakland about wide receiver? No. Oakland's not going to try to trade the Kansas City, and quite honestly, they wouldn't give him anything in return anyway. Cross-division trades never work out. So I'm not worried about it. Scott Mays, does Sorensen have good trade value? Possibly. It'd have to be to a pretty stout defensive team that wants to really crowd the box. Panthers. I bet Matt Patricia would probably like him up in Detroit. Zach Fisher, do you think the poor offensive performance on Saturday was indicative of poor play technique or a vanilla preseason scheme? Vanilla scheme, hands down. I don't think you've seen this team be what it's going to be at all. Who do you like to start at center? It's going to be Reeder. The question is going to be who's going to be the backup in case he gets hurt. I'm leaning towards Allegretti right now. Big Sean, how much did the defense hold this team back in his last game? Quite a bit. Last season was tough. It's a new era. I'm looking forward to it. Okay. Anybody else got questions? Hit me with question marks at the beginning so I can find them. Everything's kind of running together now. Sean M. Ryan, as this defense has me a little concerned. Do you think that the DBs will be an issue all year? I think they're going to give up some plays. Yeah. They're not a top flight secondary yet. They're going to have to replace some guys to get there. But they are serviceable. They can be top half of the league, and that's more than enough to get to a Super Bowl and win it. Let's see. Jason Lozar, because of the sluggish start against the Steelers, do you think they will come out slinging against the 49ers and light it up? Not necessarily because of the Pittsburgh game, but because it's game 3, they're going to run more of their actual offense. I still don't think you're going to see any tricks or anything, but yeah, they're going to come out more businesslike and more ready to go. So I do think they're going to give the 49ers a better game, to tell you the truth. Who gets cut at QB? Casey Rich, 13. Both Shermer and Litton. I think they take 2 quarterbacks. Henny's the only backup on the 53. D-Rob or Cody Thompson? D-Rob will be on the roster. KC King, 23. Cody Thompson might make it 2, but the team likes D-Rob better. Scott Smith, I talked about this earlier. I think Jeff Allen coming back is a good safety blanket, and I think they're happy to have him. Do you believe in the Madden curse, Scott Conklin? I do. It kind of makes sense to me. So everybody cross your fingers, eat your Mahomes cereal and stuff, and let's keep the kid healthy. Happy birthday, Sean. A lot of guys. If you guys like this, make sure that you hit the like. If you want to contribute to the channel, check out the Teespring store. It's everywhere on every video. You can always get to it. It's in the cards when this reposts. Buy a t-shirt. That always helps me out. Next chat, you can always use the super chat too. That's I get a lot of people asking how to help. That's how you can help. That's the easiest way. I appreciate you guys spending this hour with me, and man, we went way over. The other thing that you can do if you want to help out, tell more people about these lives. I'm going to do one every Monday night. Even if the Chiefs play Monday Night Football, we'll just do it late. Because quite honestly, you don't want to go listen to the Star. So I'll be here. I hope you'll be here. Thanks for being here tonight. Okay, one last question because it just came in. Scott Meza, do we play better under the 4-3 or the 4-3 nickel scheme? I think it's going to be about 50-50. He's going to play some over too. I don't think it's going to be simplified that much. I think nickel will be the predominant one. I think they'll probably play the best in that until somebody just tries to run it right at him. So anyway, hope you guys have a good night. Thanks for watching. I'll have more videos Wednesday, Friday this week. Then I'm going to the lake for the weekend. Then we'll be back next Monday night. So you all have a good one, and I'll talk to you then.